It's time for ROTD Weekend. Happy New Year! I hope you are starting off 2026 with a lot of fun, love, and delicious food. I know I am, because I am still cruising in the Caribbean as you listen to this. And so for today, I am bringing you a conversation from the past, but a while ago. So you may not have listened to it, or you may have forgotten it by now. And I spent a lot of time choosing the one that I wanted to play for you. I wanted it to resonate with me and therefore maybe resonate with you. And so, last week I mentioned the baked brie that I make with garlic and red pepper. And I said that my sister-in-law, Ange, had made it for me when I visited recently and I hadn't had it in a long time. So Ange was in my mind, and I remembered that she and I had recorded a conversation back in 2024, early 2024 for this podcast. And I was like, I wonder what we talked about. I don't even remember. And I went back and listened, and it is just so perfect. Ange is an amazing cook. She is in the restaurant industry doing it every day. While I was up in Canada a month ago, I talked with her a lot. They're still doing all this great food and also cooking for their family. Ange and my brother are just huge home cooks, and their son, Carter, my nephew, has become an amazing cook in his own right. He's in there making dinners for everyone, cooking up a storm for himself. And so I really felt very inspired by being in their kitchen and in their home, surrounded by all this food talk as usual. But yeah, so I re-listened to my conversation with Ange, and it's really, really great. Her way of meal planning is different from mine, but so intuitive and good, and maybe something I need to think about a little bit more, channeling some of that and giving it a try. And so as we enter this new year and we're about to go back into the normal, I don't know for you if it's back to school season or back to normal work season, everything kind of goes back to the day to day again. Maybe having a way of doing your meal planning, thinking about it differently, is something you want to do, or maybe actually already meal plan like Ange. You will find out when you listen. But yeah, this is a great conversation between two people who love to eat and love to cook about how we get our families fed, how we are doing it. So here we are, my conversation with my amazing sister-in-law, Angela Pittman. Let's listen. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to have you back too. This is really fun, and I really appreciate that you want to do this, because I know that you're an amazing cook, and I can't wait to find out what recipe you've brought. But first, tell us a little bit about your cooking background, because you work in this field too.
Yes, I do. So currently I'm managing a golf course. So I'm not on the front lines necessarily every day anymore, but I am planning and menu executing and recipe development as still. And then I have help that is executing the actual dishes. But I love creating new menu items and putting together food that just tastes delicious. So I've been here for almost 10 years already. And before that, we had owned restaurants in West Hawk Lake, Manitoba, and in Falcon Lake, Manitoba. So a steakhouse and lounge and bar. And then prior to that, I worked with my in-laws at a deli and cafe.
The in-laws being my parents?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been okay, I hadn't realized that you've been at the golf course for 10 years. So how long has it been since you first started working in a restaurant?
Oh, that's a good question. I think 22 years I've been doing this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that essentially means that I've known you for about 22 years?
22 years, yeah. That's where I met your brother, and the rest is history. So yeah, we've worked in restaurants together, run, owned, managed all sorts of different of our work life together. So.
And in addition to professional cooking, you have two kids, and I know you and my brother cook a lot at home and for your family. I know we're going to do a recipe in a second, but Talk, if you can, a little bit about like your food at home philosophy. Like, how are you working in food and managing the golf course all day and then coming home and still like making delicious things for your family? Busy schedule. I know you guys are very, very active. There's volleyball, baseball, all kinds of things going on all the time. How are you doing that?
I try to do meal planning every week, but we also don't like to stick with a plan. So I set sort of some 10 ideas of what we might want to have. And then we always have essentials in the fridge. So there's always peppers, there's always onions, garlic, carrots, and then fruit, obviously. But my staple items, there's always those veggies in the fridge so that it leads to endless possibilities of what we want to make, whether it's Mexican inspired or Italian or salads. One of our favorite things at the moment is to have a big salad every week that has just loaded with ingredients. So peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, corn, and then a dressing and usually a protein. And then I can get my son to eat it. My daughter, we usually make some rice on the side, so we can call it a burrito bowl. And then she can add some of the essentials, but have more of her style of meal.
Oh yeah, that the bowls especially, like that's kind of what you end up doing with that is so great when kids are younger, but anybody who doesn't love a lot of foods, people can choose what they're putting and then everybody gets a delicious meal that they're actually going to eat, right? Love that.
Yeah. The pre-planning is I've tried to do exact meal planning, but then it gets to that day and we're like, we just don't feel like this today. So
it happens to me all the time too. I'm like, okay, so today's the day that we're making meatloaf, except I think we're having spaghetti and meatballs instead. Like,
yeah. So the idea often transforms into something completely different or something that we haven't had in a really long time that we forgot about. And we're like, oh, we need to have that today because we have all the ingredients. That was the plan. This was the plan, but let's move to something that we're going to love even more.
Do you think this has only just occurred to me, and I think we might be similar about this somehow. Part of cooking is creativity. And when you have something written down on a list and you know for days in advance that you're going to be having it, it doesn't feel creative anymore, right? Like you're like, oh, I don't want to have that chicken with brie and mushrooms because for some reason it's been like solidified and it doesn't have that exciting creativity to it anymore. Do you feel that?
Definitely. It could be an exotic thing like, yes, chicken with brie and cranberries and pesto, whatever. And then, yeah, you're thinking about it for days and then you're like, I don't even want that. Like it would probably be delicious, but I just don't want it.
Yeah. I think it's taking some of that like last minute great idea, spontaneity out of cooking when you have that plan. Yeah.
I always like to pick out a meat in the morning or the day before that we're going to have. So then if I come home from work and I know that I have chicken in the fridge or ground beef or pork, then it's a little bit easier to come up with something new and exciting if I don't feel like what the plan was supposed to be. If I come home from work and I don't have anything pulled, that's when it's more stressful. But however, I have discovered lately that frozen chicken breast in the air fryer is to die for. So that is our go-to, high protein. We need to get to practice or dance or whatever. And we want something that's good and fresh and homemade. It's like, okay, frozen chicken in the air fryer and we're good to go in 25 minutes.
I like that. You know what? I love that idea too for like what ends up happening to me sometimes is like we have whatever it is after school going on and I'm pretty sure that we're going to be coming home to eat, but I don't know for sure. So I don't want to take something out. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? Usually for me, it's frozen chicken thighs, but that's okay. Like I've got the frozen chicken thighs. They can go in the air fryer as soon as we get in the door and they're fine. If we end up going to a restaurant or grabbing something on the way home, they're still in the freezer and it just saves me all the time,
Definitely.
I love the air fryer. Air fryer is so good. Okay.
It is.
Did you bring a surprise recipe for me today?
I do have a surprise recipe for you today.
What is it?
It is my homemade tomato and roasted vegetable sauce.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I love tomatoes. I've always loved tomatoes growing up as a kid. We had tomatoes with breakfast. We had tomatoes fried. We had tomatoes raw, tomato sandwiches. I ended up eating so much tomatoes as a kid. I was allergic to them for a while and I had itchy skin, but they were so delicious that my body adapted and I got past it, and now I have no problem with tomatoes. But my family does not love tomatoes. Mike likes them, but they're not his favorite fruit or vegetable, whatever we like to call them right now. And my kids don't eat them just plain, like they won't have them in a sandwich. Brooklyn won't touch them. But as if they're cooked and if they're in something, that's their most favorite thing.
That is, I did not know that. I didn't know that about Mike, and I didn't know that about your kids. We ate so much tomatoes growing up, especially like garden tomatoes, mayonnaise tomato, and cheese sandwiches. That was just a thing. Was he not liking them the whole time?
So he doesn't mind them, but like on a burger, he's decided in the past probably 8 years that he does not like tomatoes on burgers anymore. It makes it messy, it makes it slide off. It's just not the flavor that he wants anymore. So I'm like, okay. And then if we look at a sandwich, I love a tomato on a sandwich, and I will always pick to have the slice of tomato. But if it's just me eating the tomato and then you slice off a few pieces, there's always a half left. When you wrap up a tomato, you put it in the fridge, or you cut some for salad and you put it in the fridge. No matter how you put it, it's just not quite the same the next day.
I agree.
So it doesn't give you that fresh taste anymore that you can eat raw. Like you can cook it for breakfast, but it's just not the same raw.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Yeah, and just anytime a tomato goes into a fridge, it is less good than it was before, for sure. So you are making this sauce, homemade tomato and roasted vegetable sauce, because you want your tomato fix and it's the only way that your family's going to let you have it?
Yes. So I always have tomatoes in my fridge, whether it's usually I alternate or I have cherry or grape tomatoes in the fridge all the time. And they vary in size. So I'll buy a big one if it's on sale and I'm, craving tomatoes, and that's what we're going to do. But sometimes they sit in the fridge and I just don't get through them. So as my tomatoes need to be looked after, I put them in bags and I freeze them. When I have whole tomato, like a Roma or something on the vine, and I eat part of it, I always put it in the fridge with good intentions that I'm going to have more of it later or the next day. And usually, 1 and 2 days later, I look at it, I'm like, yep, not eating that now. So I will take the core out, I wrap it or put it in the bag with the cherry tomatoes and throw it in the freezer.
Oh my God, I love this.
So this process kind of continues for a period of time until I have an excessive amount of tomatoes in the freezer. Or if I've been growing tomatoes in the summer or been given cherry tomatoes and I have excess of them, then I end up making roasted tomato sauce. So it's using ingredients that I've already bought, I've already intended to eat and just didn't get to, or life gets busy, or it just wasn't what I was craving before it goes bad. So freeze it with skin on, no work at all, throw it in the freezer and you're good to go. The same goes with if I have peppers in the fridge. So we always have peppers. We eat peppers by the caseload here. But there's that odd week where we just are sick of them and we just don't feel like it. Or the, tradition of everyone loves yogurt this week. So you buy all the yogurt and then nobody likes yogurt anymore.
Yes. I'm very familiar with this tradition.
Yes. So this is just how the world works. And, 1 week you love something and the next is just not your thing. So if I end up having peppers in the fridge that we just didn't quite get through all of them, or I bought a big bag because they were on sale and I had good intentions, then I will just take the seeds out, cut them into maybe 3 pieces, and again, throw them in a bag in the freezer so that I can just use them later.
So are these in the same bag as the tomatoes, or you keep them separate?
It depends on where I'm at. So if I'm busy and I need to just clean out the fridge and good to go, I just throw them in together, but often I'll keep them in separate bags so I can decide what I want to make.
Okay, and so then when you want to make the sauce, what do you do?
Okay, so then when I've decided that today is sauce making day, I usually take a big casserole pan, so like a 9x13, but a deep one, 1 or 2, depending on how many tomatoes I want to get going here. Put them all in the pan, frozen, so they make that, clanging sound of your cherry tomatoes hitting the bottom. So you have one with, usually if I have both peppers and tomatoes, I will often mix them together. If I'm making, 2 different things or I have an excess of each, I'll keep them separately. In the pan, preheat my oven to 350 convection. usually so that it gets that sort of browning on them. You can definitely do it on bake, but I have convection on my oven and I love it. And it speeds the processes up just a little bit more.
So I have two questions. First, so you have your tomatoes in a 9x13. Are they like a single layer or are they kind of piled up? Do you know what
they are piled up as many as you can get into there.
Okay, so it can be like full 9x13 full pan of tomatoes. And then, okay, I've never cooked with a convection oven except for the air fryer, which is like a mini convection oven. I'm just curious because I actually have to buy an oven. I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but my double oven situation is on the fritz and it's really driving my mom who's staying with me right now crazy. But no, she's okay. She's dealing. She's good. But maybe it makes me crazier. So the convection oven, does it actually act like a big air fryer?
It's not as fast as an air fryer, that's for sure, but it definitely gives it more of that roasted look to things. It gets things a little bit darker and crisper, a little faster. So convection is pretty much my go-to for almost anything other than if I'm more baking cookies or muffins.
And your oven is set up so that you can choose bake or convection. So when you choose bake, it's just acting like a normal oven.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I need. Now I'm using you for my research. I need to figure this out because I still need to test recipes for everybody else, like everybody. And so I can't be using special things that not everybody has all the time. So I need to have the option to just bake like normal.
Yes, mine has both the option of each. So
okay, that is what I need to get then. Okay, thank you for the oven information.
No problem.
Okay, so you've got the oven at 350 and you're using convection.
Yes. So once you have your tomatoes in your pan and your other vegetables, then I always take an onion and peel it and chop it into maybe quarters and put some in each, and a head or usually 2 heads of garlic peeled and just thrown in whole. So very little chopping, very little prep. It is just, and it's a great way. If you have extra onions, you can throw an extra onion in your fridge from your fridge in if you're going shopping and you want to just start fresh with everything, depending on your likes for onions. But so yeah, your peppers, your onions, your garlic in there, and then take olive oil and drizzle on top. So probably 1 to 2 tablespoons just over the top, salt and pepper. So usually I start off with some kosher salt. I would say if the pan is full and heaping, I would go a good tablespoon of kosher salt, some pepper, probably 2 teaspoons. I don't necessarily cook this with precise ingredients because I'm also using random amounts of vegetables. It's never quite exactly the same. And you can always add more later. So, and then basil. So my kids love basil. Fresh basil, dried basil, they are obsessed. So I always put at least 2 tablespoons of basil in the pan as well. Dried basil, and then if I have fresh basil that needs to get used up, then I will put that into, and that makes it even better.
And do you mix it at that point or anything? You just sort of sprinkle it all on top?
Just sprinkle it all on top. Like, it's very simple. It's great. Then I put them in the oven and let them bake for about 40 minutes. Give it a stir, and you'll start to see your tomatoes are starting to explode and they're starting to soften up. And then I'll put it, after I give it a good stir, you have to pull it out carefully because you will be getting quite a bit of liquid now coming out of your tomatoes. Give it a good stir and then put it in for approximately another 45 minutes. You want to see that it's starting to get the little bit of browning on the top, black. Like, it's more you roast it, the more delicious it's going to taste. You don't want it to be burnt, but you need it to start having some of that darker color.
Okay. And if the odd bit has some black to it, that's okay. Just it can't be low.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. If the odd bit has some black on it, it's just bringing out the flavor. It's not burnt because tomatoes take a long time to burn, and you have so much liquid in there by that point with all of the tomatoes rendering down that the liquid is keeping everything moist.
Yeah, no, and that, I think that's so true. Sometimes we see something black and think, oh no, it's going to be a bitter burnt flavor. But if that thing had lots of sugar and sweetness, we just did a air fryer barbecue chicken video, and I'm worried, we'll see, the video will come out eventually soon in the next month or so, but I'm worried that it looks too dark in the video because it looks so like black in places, but it was so like just caramelized, delicious, and not burnt flavored at all. So a little bit of black is going to be like just beautiful sweet tomato flavor, right?
Absolutely. And your peppers, I mean, if you've ever had roasted peppers or barbecued peppers, when they have that black, well cooked taste and look to them, the flavor in them is just unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, so it's until they're nice and brown after you stir it once, like 45 minutes more, and then what do you do?
Okay, so then I would take them out, give them one more stir, let it cool on the counter for a little bit, and then find jars. So I don't can, but I save jars from everything. So jam, pasta sauce that I do buy, whatever. I have a collection of jars, and every now and then clean them out. But there's always the excess amount of jars downstairs. So get some jars. So about for a 9 by 13, you're talking about 3 good jars of sauce. So if you have 2 pans going, you're looking at about 6. So it's great. It takes space from your freezer that you were putting in Ziploc bags
Hmm.
and kind of spread all over the place. And now you've created your meals. So let it cool on the top of the stove for till it's, a reasonable temperature. You're not going to melt your blender. So then the next step is to start to put it in the blender. So I use my Vitamix and I put it in about halfway full and blend it up until it is completely pureed to
Mm.
liquid. So sometimes you'll have just ended up putting in something like a piece of celery, which I don't do that often. You'll have a little bit of that stringy. So I've done that and it's not my favorite because celery in a blender is still always has a little bit of texture.
Hmm.
But the peppers and the tomatoes, once you have them in the blender, they blend down so they're nice and smooth. And you've cooked them for a long time, so you'll get that great consistency.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And what
Then
about like wateriness, like all the liquid coming out of the vegetables? You're putting all that liquid in the blender too?
yes, every last bit you're putting in. So when you're cooking it later, if it's too liquidy, which I don't usually find it is, then you can always just cook it down a little bit more. But I
Hmm.
always find it's a really great consistency. So, and you want to get your pan scrapings in there, so all the edges, so it gives all the little bits of flavor and seasonings that are in there. So if I would then, after it's been blended, taste it, see if it needs any extra salt, pepper, or garlic.
Hmm.
Often it doesn't need extra garlic. Taste and see if you need more salt and pepper. And you're freezing it, so you can always add more later depending on what you ultimately want to make.
Wait, so you put it in jars and then you freeze the jars?
I freeze the jars.
Oh, I don't do
So
this.
this is now our easy go-to. It's like, what are we having today? We're going to have something with pasta sauce or tomato sauce or roasted tomato veg. So this can now be created into tomato sauce. It can be made into pizza sauce. We just add some tomato paste to it and some extra seasonings. It can be made in tomato soup. Has endless possibilities of what we can use for this now. And it's a good way to get extra veg in. So my daughter has just started liking vegetables. She's 10. We have tried everything and she's just was not interested. She would rather starve than eat a carrot.
Oh, poor Brooke.
And at one point, pepper, like any of the vegetables. Lately, I've been putting onions in almost everything, and she has been adopting to it and eating it without complaint.
Oh, nice.
So,
That's exciting.
yeah,
When you have the jars in the freezer, I'm assuming why do I not know anything about this? So you don't fill them super full because you don't want the jar to crack when everything moves and freezes, right?
correct. Yeah. So, about 3/4 full, maybe a little bit more. Definitely not that last little where the jar slims down.
Hmm.
Definitely don't fill it that full so that you do have some room for expansion. And then I let them cool first
Wow.
before I freeze them.
Hmm. And then
So,
when you want to use them, it's like frozen solid in the jar. So
yes.
what do you do to use them?
So if you remember to take it out the day before, it's no problem. If you don't remember, you can either put it in the sink with cold water or a bowl with cold water. Or sometimes my jars are entirely too big and I have good thoughts that those are the jars that I'm going to pull out the day before. But I end up take the lids off, put it in a glass measuring cup upside down in the microwave on defrost to get the process started.
Oh, that's smart.
so that they start to melt down.
So it's open and upside down in a measuring cup, and you've got it on defrost, so it's like dripping down into the measuring cup as it's defrosting in the microwave?
Yes.
That
Because I've
is
done
brilliant.
where the jar is a little bit big, but I have like a convection microwave, so it has an element on the top. So if the jar is too tall, then it hits the element, falls over. We have tomato everywhere. That has happened. So now I've adapted to the measuring cup upside down, or even like a Pyrex pan, like one of those round Corningware type things, with the jar upside down on defrost, so that it's slowly melting down, that your sauce is coming out.
That is so smart. I love this idea for using up the tomatoes and for making space in your freezer and turning it into a delicious sauce. You mentioned, I have one more question. You mentioned at some point something along the lines of roasted tomato vegetables. Do you sometimes use this as a sauce on vegetables too, or more like pasta and pizza?
So I've used it on, it's endless on what I've used it on. So I wouldn't necessarily put it, you definitely could put it on top of vegetables as well to kind of give you that extra flavor. If you decide that you're going to make just the tomatoes and leave those separately. So I've done where I've roasted the peppers. Like if I have an excess of red peppers, I'll roast those in a separate pan and I'll label that one roasted red peppers. So now we have two options. So this last week we had roasted red pepper, ricotta, and homemade pasta.
That sounds amazing.
Was delicious.
Yes, that sounds really, really. Do the kids like that?
They love it.
My kids won't eat ricotta. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yes. So we made for New Year's this year. So we have a pasta attachment that we got for Christmas a couple of years ago. My kids love pasta. I like it. It's not my most favorite thing to have. I get pretty sick of it. But when you make homemade pasta, it's so delicious. So we don't make it that often. I don't have a ton of time or patience to make the homemade pasta, and they have a wonderful Baba that loves to make pasta with them. So that kind of gets their fix because they both like to cook. But we made on New Year's Eve this year, we made homemade pasta and we made ravioli stuffed with ricotta and spinach and garlic and mozza. And then I had some leftover filling that we didn't use. So I, again, put it in the freezer in a bag that I'm going to decide to do something with that later. And then this week it ended up being that I had roasted red peppers. So we made a roasted red pepper and ricotta pasta, and it was delicious.
That sounds amazing. I love it.
So the roasted red peppers, I've also made into soup as well.
Oh, that's a really good idea. And I guess the tomato sauce you could turn into soup too really easily, right?
Absolutely. So I do add it to my soups and chilies sometimes. Again, because Brooke doesn't love diced tomatoes. So if we have chili, she'll eat the beans. She loves everything else in it, but doesn't love the chunks of tomatoes. So sometimes I'll put the sauce in as part of the chili. So it's less chunks for her to enjoy.
This is so perfect. I love it so much. Thank you for bringing a recipe for me today, and for talking with me. I've really enjoyed this.
Thanks for having me.
So much structured spontaneity in that meal planning plan from Ange, and that tomato sauce, right? I've made it before. You've got to make it now. It is so seriously good. Thank you so much, Ange. I loved revisiting that conversation. Now, I will say, since I am still on a cruise, I am not cooking again this week, so I don't have anything to tell you here. But I will say that I have 2 big cooking days coming up when I get back. Jen, who helps me out in the kitchen, is coming over 2 days in a row, and we are knocking out a whole bunch of testing and some things we've already tested that we are going to be photographing and videoing and all of that. As for the testing component, we are looking for some new things to start developing, and I would love to know what recipes you would like to see. I'm going to put a post in our Facebook group, the Recipe of the Day Facebook group, asking for recipes recipes that you are looking for, anything you've had in like a restaurant or seen somewhere and really want to know how to make or want a quick version of. I love doing that. Like something that you've always made, but it takes a long time and it's kind of a pain and you wish it was faster. That is something that I am great at. So go to the Recipe of the Day Facebook group. I will link to it in the show notes, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. That's where it is. And you will see my post asking for that there. And I would love to hear what you are looking for. Please let me know, and that will inspire our cooking going forward into January and beyond. And I'll just say that, I pre-recorded this before leaving on the cruise because I wasn't sure what kind of Wi-Fi situation they'd have. Can I upload big audio files, download them, all of that? Wasn't sure. So I pre-recorded it. So I don't exactly know how I'm feeling on the cruise as you listen to this, but I am almost positive that as we get to the end of that, I am going to be aching to get in the kitchen. There's this thing that happens to me if I haven't cooked in a week or so where like my brain feels wrong, my body feels wrong. And then I get back into the kitchen and everything like slides into place. And yeah, I'm excited about that already. Like having that feeling. I've been kind of exhausted. It's been a busy couple of months. And then I get this relaxation and I get to come back home and feel energized and ready to take on life and to take on your cooking challenges. So please let me know what they are. Now, as to what is new on the website, not very much this week. We just had actually, it's pretty special. It was in celebration of New Year's, and I have told you about it already on this podcast, but if you have not seen it already, it is the pork chops and sauerkraut. Pork and sauerkraut together are very lucky for the new year. So if you haven't had those together yet in this January of 2026, now is the time. I will link to that in the show notes for you, or go over to cookthestory.com and search for pork chops and sauerkraut. There you'll find it delicious. This is a really quick version that's great for a weeknight. So if you are doing your meal planning for the days ahead, add that one to your list. It's going to be so good. Okay, well, that's all that I have to say. I don't have that much going on because I'm not here. And so I will tell you next week, come back to this podcast. I have special guest Mike Costio, who is an expert at food trends, and he's going to be telling us what we can expect to see in restaurants and beyond in 2026. So come back for that next Saturday. And I want to say a big thank you to my wonderful sister-in-law, Ange Pittman, for being such a great guest and inspiring us as we start January of 2026. And a big thank you for listening. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, cookfor2.us, and this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.